This is Elizabeth with the Four Walls podcast. Today I have Brittany with me. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having me, Elizabeth. I'm so
Of
glad to be
course.
here.
I'm so happy to have you.
I am Brittany Floyd. I am painfully Midwestern, I like to tell people. I grew up in Ann Arbor, and anybody who's been to Ann Arbor, they know what the vibes are. It's kind of a weird place, a very academic, very nature forward place. And so I kind of started my journey in life just with a lot of people who have big ideas and big thoughts. And then I ended up going out into the world, and now I am an entrepreneur. I work in corporate strategy at an airline. And I'm an all-around creator. Some people call me a Renaissance woman. I don't know.
Always say multifaceted for sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, where did really your love for travel come from?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I feel like, I'm now at almost about 50 countries. I got two more that I'm doing next month. And so it's nice to kind of start from the beginning, and like what
Yeah.
made it all happen. And so, yeah, I used to study classical voice for about 9 years. And my choir, they had this thing where every 4 years they would take the top choirs to a competition. And I happened to land on that fourth year. And I was in one of the top choirs, and so I got to go, and it was great. I got a scholarship, everything was paid for, and so yeah, it's just me, this little like young Black woman, just kind of never thought that that was accessible to me. And then there I am, and I'm in Venice, and I'm competing, and we're singing in coliseums, and we're doing gondola rides in Venice, and we went to this Italian art school, and we got to meet all these students. Funny because like we only knew a little Spanish, and they only knew, like, they didn't know English, so we were talking to them in Spanish kind of because we didn't know Italian either. It was a mess. But anyway, it was like the coolest trip. I mean, like, 12-course meal at this old estate in the countryside. At 15, I did not deserve. Oh my God, what was that? Um, and so yeah, so it was really cool. I had a week that like just blew my mind and changed my whole life. And then I remember in Detroit at the airport, and literally as soon as the wheels touched the ground, I just started crying. And it wasn't like sad tears. It was just kind of like, wow, like how do I do this more? My world has been changed forever type tears. And I'm not really
Yeah.
a crier, so like when I'm looking back now, I'm like, wow, I really was impacted. I just didn't know at 15 like how to articulate that, but now I see my
Mhm.
life and I realized I kind of had a feeling this would happen.
Wow, that's so beautiful. What a turning point too. Like at such a critical point in your life, like 15, and you're like,
Hmm.
wow, I'm in Italy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like walking through Rialto, getting lost on bridges, like, eating gelato, wearing my little Italia t-shirt. Loved it. And it was
Yes,
like,
I love it.
yeah, and like the World Cup was that year, and I think Italy was in it. Uh, and so we landed in Milan, and literally it was like everyone everywhere with jerseys and big balls in the square, like, football slash soccer balls in the square. And it was just vibes. I feel like I've come to learn that football for Europeans in the world is so big. And so to be able to arrive on that moment, it was just all very special.
Wow, the stars really aligned for that one.
Hmm.
That's so beautiful. And then how did that impact kind of after high school, going into college, and eventually working?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like for me after that Italy trip, I'm like, how do I do this again? How do I leave this country? How do I see more? How do I do more? But I grew up like a low income background. Like my mom, she worked at a nonprofit, so it wasn't like we had like a lot of money. And so mostly all the opportunities that were available in high school were all ones where it was like you could do a semester, but you just paid $5,000 or whatever, and there was like no scholarships. And so I
Mhm.
kind of was just like, "Ugh, how do I do this again?" And then when I was in high school, they used to do assemblies every third hour where colleges would come and talk to us and tell us about their school and programs. And, we all went, but like really we just wanted to hang out and skip third hour. But, it was multi-purpose.
Of course.
And so, yeah, so one day the school that I ended up going to, they came, and it's a school right down the street from me. Literally, it's called Eastern Michigan University. And one of the people there was talking about how I could study abroad for the same cost as a tuition at my school, and I could use financial aid. And I was like, hmm, okay. now we're talking. Now we're talking. And so like when I just planned to go to college, I was like, I'm gonna study abroad. And I had no idea how this was really gonna happen. Like I'm telling you, like I grew up in a really rich town, but I was the poor girl in the rich town. Like I just never thought that this was gonna be possible for real. And then when they told me about study abroad and using my scholarship money, I was like, oh, okay, we can go. Let's go. And so yeah, so I ended up like just telling people like for the first like couple of years of college, like I'm gonna study abroad. I had no idea what that really meant, right?
Hmm.
But then I met this guy and he was from Flint and he was my homie. And he used to teach me how to skateboard. And he ended up like leaving and going to Japan. And then when he came back, he was like, it was amazing. I think I'm gonna go back. And he was like, go talk to, I forgot the lady's name, but just say her name was Cindy. He was like, go talk to Cindy in the study abroad office. There's a fair, it's from 4 to 6. Like, go do this, talk to this person. So I just kind of went. And then I ended up going to England because I didn't study enough language before I went because you had to have 2 semesters and I only had 1 semester of Spanish. And so I was like, well, it looks like I'm going to somewhere that speaks English. So then I ended up in England, but it was great. And it was like really the launch pad for the life that I live now. Because yeah, I got to England and I met some of my best friends from Finland and Brazil and elsewhere and my local friends. And I just got to see like 9 countries that year and in Europe and North Africa. And it really just changed everything.
Wow, that is so amazing. I feel like that's one of the things I regret the most about college is I didn't take the opportunity to go study abroad. So I love, shout out to that friend. Shout out to Cindy.
Yeah, no, seriously. Shout out to everybody who listened to me talking about I was going to study abroad for all those years. And I was like, look, I really did it. See, I wasn't just talking.
Yes.
So,
And then how
yeah.
was it like acclimating to Europe from America for that semester abroad?
Yeah, yeah. So I stayed the whole year actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that's why I got to see so much and like I really feel like I have like deep relationships and like a really like deep bond with the place that I lived. It's this little town called Derby. It's in the East Midlands. Yeah, it was tough. So like, I think from like let's just start with like school. This from the
Mhm.
academic perspective, it was very independent in the way that like the US is not in some ways. There's some programs in some places where they do have this, but they give you all your assignments on day one. They're like, these are the assignments, here are your exams, and then that's it. You just have to self study. You just have to know the deadlines. You just have to like turn it in. And so you have to be so independent there. Whereas, like, I feel like in the States, it's like, oh, they're like babysitting you. They're like, here's a
Mhm.
quiz, here's an assignment. Guys, remember you have an exam. Yeah, remember like, they would maybe mention that we had an exam, but like
Mhm.
it was just like you just had to be like independent in a way that I had
Yeah.
never been before. And I'm like 19. I'm like, okay, I guess so. Like let me get my stuff together. I can't fill out. And so that was kind of challenging, but what I find is that like my professors were way more familial. Like I
Mhm.
could just chat with them. They could say, "Oh, come have a beer with me at the pub," or like they were like, I don't know, they were interesting and they were kind of wacky and like I don't know,
And
you
it's
know what
like
I
you're not
mean?
doing that in the US.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It was wacky. One time I was taking global development, like I was studying global development and tourism management, and there was a tourism class at another campus that the university had, and it was in this town called Buxton, and it was like an hour through this really beautiful part of England called the Peak District. And so I used to like ride the bus every day through the Peak District to go, not every day, but once a week to go to this class that was at the other campus. And one of my professors, he found out that I lived in Derby and he was like, "Oh, I live in Derby. Do you want just for me to just give you a ride every Friday?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." Like my teacher's gonna give me a ride to class, but okay. And so I ended up riding with him every week. And it was cool. We had a bond. And because I had to wait for him like a couple hours while he taught one more class, I ended up being there at like where the spa school is because they have basically a hospitality school there. And
Mhm.
so this one girl came up to me and she's like, "Hey, will you be here every Friday?" And I'm like, "Yeah, actually, I will." And she's like, "Oh, well, I need to massage someone every week." So she unlocked a demon. But anyway, so it was cool. So nonetheless, like, I feel like, it was just an interesting independent vibe. But also I feel like the professors were just kind of like, they were just nice and wacky and I don't know, it was cool. And then
That's
from like
amazing.
yeah. And then from like a romantic perspective, it was so funny. So There was a guy who lived in my flats, and he like we met in the common room like maybe the first or second day that I was there, and a lot of us were there. And then he like asked me on a date, and I was like, okay. So then we he asked me on a date, so we go to Nando's, right? It's so funny.
Mhm.
The Nando's, and we're sitting across from each other, and he's like, "This is my first date," and I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, like I know I've heard that Americans like they expect you to like take them on dates and stuff. Usually when I'm dating, they just say like, come round, like my friend's having a party or, like something casual, like let's have a picnic or whatever. He's like, I had to take you on a date. You're American. I had to take you on a date. And I was like, okay. And so it was just like, it was funny, because I feel like even though like obviously people go on dates in the UK, but it was just like, Americans had a certain reputation for like how we go about dating. And I feel like that was kind
Mhm.
of like reflected on me, and I was like, okay, well, let's do your first date then. Let's go. And then I feel like there was one other thing that was interesting, and it was just like, being a Black woman growing up in an all white town, like Ann Arbor is like 8% Black. I had never been anything other than a Black girl. And
Mhm.
then I go to the UK, and then I was at this party one day, and I had like just a handful of English friends, and this girl Alice, she was like, "Come to my flat, like I'm having a party." I'm like, "Okay." So we go to the flat, and then they were like, kept saying, "Oh, have you met the American girl?" And I was like, "Who? Me? I'm the American girl." Wow, wow, okay, that's me. They mean me, like for better or for worse, like there were some people who were like, "Oh, American girl," like they had really bad
Mhm.
feelings about Americans, well, different podcast. But yeah, so I think that like it was the first time that people didn't call me Black, and that was wild, And I found that like I had a lot of time to really think about my identity there as well. Because the thing is that like, and I'm sure, when you travel and stuff, like you've probably met
Mhm.
people, from everywhere. And so like in the UK, it's like most of the Black people there are, either Caribbean or African
Mhm.
with closer ties to home and with language, with food, etc. And so there's just not a lot of people who are like how Black Americans are in the way that we just like, you know, we don't know that. We
Mhm.
don't know those things. And so every day when I was abroad, that whole year, no matter where I was, UK, traveling, like, where are you from? And I'm like, the States. And they're like, no, no, no. Where are you from? I'm like, well, Michigan. And they're like, no, no, no. But where are you really from? I'm like, well, my dad's family's from Texas and my mom's family's from Alabama, like, and they're like, no, but where are you really from? And I was like, that's where I'm from. Like,
Yeah.
have you never learned about the transatlantic slave trade? Like, please, and so it forced me to think about my identity all the time, you know like I was just always thinking about who am I, what does this mean, and in the global context, what does my Blackness mean, because I joined
Mhm.
the Afro-Caribbean Society, and they were so
Ooh.
warm and welcoming, and it was so great, and we had the best food all the time, and like it was great, but I was the only one like me. And so like
Yeah.
I realized that, in the States, like it was, the existence was normal, like, there's obviously immigrants here and stuff, but like, the Black community is quite strong in like our big, areas and stuff. So
Mhm.
it was just so strange to feel like so alone in that way, and like
Yeah.
to be with Black people that weren't like Black Americans. And so I had to learn what it was like in the diaspora. And like, I am so grateful for that year and everything that happened beyond, because it made me a better citizen, a better person of the diaspora. I feel very like Pan-African in the way that I just like support like everyone who has had a journey, because all of our journeys are interconnected. But at the time, I didn't know that, so I'm just like, here I go, this random American girl with no heritage, no language, no nothing. But I mean, it's true. It's not true though. I think that what I
Mhm.
learned is that like we do have language, we have our own patois, we do have a culture, we have our food from the South that we made from, the remnants of our past and the materials we had, the scraps left over, like
Mhm.
we do have a culture. But at the time, I just didn't feel like we did, and people would tell me that I didn't. And so it was just like a
Mhm.
strange place to be.
For sure.
But it was cool. And then the last thing I'll say, I'm talking a lot, but
That's
um
okay.
I remember the first night I went out to a club, and I was like expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, but I go out, and one of the first songs that I heard was a Big Sean song. and he's from Detroit, like us. Like I have family in Detroit. I grew up in Metro Detroit area, so I just like love Detroit artists, Detroit rappers. So I'm like, what? Then I came all the way across the pond just to hear Big Sean at the club. Maybe he had a little dubstep beat on it, but like I'm listening to Big Sean, and it's like it just hit me like, wow, like, Americans really have like Black American music
Hmm.
and our music in general, not just Black people, like all of our music, like pop culture. It's like everyone in the world
All
knows
over.
what's going on. And so, yeah, it was just like, just realizations that I was making along the way.
Wow, that's such a dope experience, and what a impactful year for you. Like, so much going on, and
Hmm.
wow, I could only imagine. And you're only 19?
Yes. And then I turned 20 and okay, this is the best part. It's like I turned 20 and I was in Barcelona. I had a friend from Michigan who they were on fall break and he was studying like in, I don't know, Italy or somewhere. And so he was like, "Oh, meet me and my friends in Barcelona." So I spent my 20th birthday in Barcelona with my toes in the sand, like, till the sun comes up, like we're all out there like this. We're just like,
Yes.
it's like 5 a.m. We've had like, a wild night and we're all just there sitting on the sand. And I'm just like, is this my life now? Like, how did I get so
Love that.
lucky? I'm spending my 20th birthday on the Mediterranean. Like,
Like,
you
how
could never tell
beautiful.
me, the girl who grew up in Arrowwood, that's the neighborhood I grew up in, like that I would ever be here. So it was lit.
Oh, for real, that sounds amazing. Like, what a way to kick off your 20s.
Yes. And honestly, it was like indicative of kind of what was going to happen next because it was a whirlwind. Yeah.
Yes. Because then you started as a flight attendant, right? After you
Yep.
graduated?
Exactly. Well, not quite after I graduated.
Hmm.
That's a whole other thing as well. But I got back home to Michigan in this tiny little town called Ypsilanti. And I was like, I just had this big life in Europe. And then I come home to this little town and no one had ever told me about reentry shock and like how, it can be really, really difficult coming home for many, many reasons. I really was just struggling, like struggling, struggling. And then I just kept fumbling through. And I thought to myself, if I don't take a second for myself, like I'm never going to graduate. I'm going to fail out. I'm never going to have the chance to go to grad school. I don't even know why I thought that. Who would have thought I was going to grad school? I did. But like, like I don't know. I'm always like, I don't always know, but I know somehow, like what's good for me. So I had been meeting all these people while I was backpacking and they were taking gap years and stuff. And it was like non-traditional. And I was like, well, I'm taking a gap year. And everyone's like, why are you doing this? You're a junior. Like, this is insane. Like, why are you taking a gap? This is insane. This is insane. And I was just like, nope, I know it. And so anyway, I met this girl at a nail shop and she was like talking with this girl about how her nail tech, about how she had just got back from Istanbul. And so I'm in this tiny little town in Michigan. Like it's like 30,000 people live in this town. And I was like, why would she be in Istanbul? And I was just there the year before with my homegirls. We did a like big like road trip thing where we just like went all over. And so anyway, she's like, I'm a flight attendant. I work for United. And I was like, I never thought of that. I've been on so many flights. I never thought of that. Oh my God. And so she referred me. I did not get the job because I said something silly at the interview. But then after that, I was like, no, I'm doing this. And so I started doing research. I was looking at YouTube videos about the lifestyle, about how to do the interview, how to look, what to say. I learned the STAR method for interviewing. Like I was not playing. Okay. I'm like, I'm going to be a flight attendant. I don't care. Like we're doing this. And so I ended up getting hired with American Airlines, and well, it was U.S. Airways until they merged with American.
Hmm.
So I just stayed American. But yeah, that was 2014, and so I'm like 23, going on 24, and I'm just like, let's do this. And so I did it, and yeah, it was crazy. I'm like, I moved in like February. Actually, next month is going to be my 12-year anniversary.
Ooh.
And so I moved in February with two suitcases and I didn't even know where I would be based. They just said like, here are the four bases that we have. you could end up in any of these and then you just leave. So I leave with 2 suitcases worth of stuff. I don't know where I'm moving, where I'm living, nothing. Like, I just know that I'm about to train to be a flight attendant. And then I didn't even know that I was moving to Philadelphia until the week before we graduated from training. So yeah, it was crazy. And then you had like 3 days to move.
Did they help you with like housing, or were they just like, good
No,
luck?
no, no, no. Me
Yeah.
and my classmates, we were just like, let's be roommates, and like we just figured it out together, you know? But yeah, no, they gave us
Yeah.
3 moving days. Like, it was just like insane. Just absolutely, like, now that I think about it, I'm like, why did I do that? But at the same time, thank goodness, you know? But it just
Yes. Then
started me on this crazy path. But I'm just so glad that I got to fly everywhere and I got to, like, just do the coolest things and like meet the coolest
yes.
people and, the lifestyle. Like, one time it was my friend's birthday just like 2 days ago. We used to live together in South Philly. And her and I, one day we were sitting down on the couch watching, like, I don't know, Say Yes to the Dress or something. And she's like, "Do you work? Like, how many days are you off?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm off for 3 days." And she was like, "Do you want to go somewhere tonight?" And I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "Well, London hasn't left yet. Dublin hasn't left yet. Whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, bet." And so we're like, "Let's just go to Dublin." So then that night, like 2 hours later, we're on the plane and then we're on our way to Dublin. And then we spent like the best night and we're like at Temple Bar. We're like, having Guinness and stuff. And it was just like, it was just like the life was crazy. You're just
It's
like,
like
"I'm
a
gonna go to
dream.
Dublin tonight." you know? And so it really like opened me up to so much. And I just had just like, it was a hard job, a hard lifestyle, but
Mhm.
it gave me so much, and like my businesses really popped off because of it, because I was like, everyone already knew me as a traveler because I had studied abroad. And then after that, I was traveling a lot. Like, me and my friend from Finland, we would meet up like twice a year and we would just go somewhere. And then when I became a flight attendant, then it was on. And then I was everywhere. So people were writing me and they would be like, "Hey, what do I do in Paris? What do I do here? What do I do there?" And I really was getting exhausted by like having to do the same response every time. And so I just made like a blog. It wasn't like a blog to be a blogger, it was a blog for
Mhm.
convenience. And so I would just like write about like the top places. And so then
Mhm.
when people would ask, I would send, I would send. And then after about a year, people started writing me and they're like, "Hey, like, thank you for this blog. I just love how you travel. Can I come with you?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm like a chill girl." I'm like, "Whatever, like, come through." And so it was
More the
like, and then,
merrier.
yeah. And then first it was like 3 that I took to Thailand. And then I took 8 to Thailand because they were like, "Hey, when are you going again?" I'm like, "Let's go. I'll take you." And then I took 15 people to Colombia, in Bogota. And I remember one of my friends, his name is Sean, adore him. And he pulled me aside and he was like, "Look, you're really good at this. Do not ever do this for free again. You have a business and I need you to be serious about it." And I was like, "Okay, bet." And then my group travel company was born. It was just like so much happened. And then I had mentioned earlier that I had dropped out of school. So then after 2 years of flying, I was like, "All right, I think it's time to go back." But I didn't want to stop being a flight attendant. So I would fly to
Mhm.
Michigan every week for class. And then I would be a flight attendant on the weekends. Like, I was insane
Oh,
for a year and a half. And then I graduated and then I was like, "All right, what next?" And so I just leaned into entrepreneurship. And so then I just kept growing my group travel business and, things were going good. And so I feel like my flight attendant life gave me the flexibility to go to school a million times, to start businesses, to just like, do whatever I wanted really and just go everywhere in the world that I had ever dreamed of, really.
that is so amazing. What a
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, it was kind of weird, but it was also great.
Yeah, no, I love that for you, especially growing up in a small town and then now you're like, I'm all around the world. Like, I'm literally with my roommate and we're like, let's go to Dublin tonight in 2 hours.
hmm Yep, exactly. Bag already half packed because we were flight attendants, so our bag was always packed. So it was just like, we just need to put in some, Dublin specific things in the bag and let's go to the airport. Yeah,
I
what a
love that.
time. hmm
So, where are you now with all of these jobs and all of everything that you have going on?
Yeah. So now, so crazy enough, so right at the pandemic, I I think it was maybe March of 2020. I
Mhm.
think in Philly we shut down, I think on the 16th. And so anyway, I'm in Philly on the 16th of March and I'm like, okay, I think that we were about to shut down for a while. This pandemic seems quite bad. I had known a lot of flight attendants who during 9/11 were furloughed for like 10 years. They had to get other jobs. They had a whole life in between before they get called back. And so I was just concerned that that might happen. And so I was like, okay, what's the next step? And so,
Mhm.
just like I was mentioning before, when I quit school, I was like, I'll never go to grad school. Okay, so then I'm like, time to go to grad school. We did it right. Let's go to grad school now. And so I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I started calling every friend under the sun. I was like, guys, what am I good at? What can I do? Like, I've been doing this travel stuff. Like, what do I do? I need to get a job. I need to like, not be like, essential worker. Like, I need to change. Um,
Yes.
I need to, because like I was like overexposed. I was a flight attendant and I
Mhm.
had a group travel company. Like I was just like, my whole life stopped in a day, in a
Mhm.
week. And so yeah, I called around. Some friends convinced me to get an MBA, and so
Ooh.
I ended up applying to get an MBA on April 1st. By May 6th, they had accepted me, gave me a fellowship, and I was starting
Ooh.
on May 16. And so it was
Oh,
like this
dang.
crazy journey. And so, yeah, so I ended up going and getting an MBA. And then after I finished, I ended up getting a job at the same airline that I was a flight attendant because I was on furlough. I actually never even quit. And they gave me
Mhm.
an offer to come into their MBA program. So I'm the first flight attendant to ever go through their MBA program. And so that was really cool. And so for the last 3.5, almost 4 years, I've been a corporate strategist working across marketing and loyalty and partnerships and co-brand and, all kinds of interesting stuff. And so, yeah, I'm a corporate strategist now. It's kind of full circle experience to be able to go from being on the front line to, driving, $100 million deals and things, it's like kind of crazy. And to be able to I think that what I didn't realize about myself and my life was that it was all aligned, and in
Mhm.
alignment. Because when I got to this stage of my life, everything that I've ever done has been useful and has been valid and has helped me get to this exact place that I am right now. And so, yeah, so I work in corporate strategy by day, and then at night, in my little 5 to 9, I have a travel themed game company, like board games, called
Ooh.
Wanderlust Game Company. And yeah, we have a product called Wanderlust Table, which is basically just like conversation starters to help travelers connect a little deeper and think deeper about travel and themselves, etc. I'll send you one. Yeah, absolutely. And then yeah, and then also too, I like to stay creative. It's not something that I mentioned a lot since my kind of choir days, but I also am a writer. I did poetry. I'm really into like arts and stuff. And so I've been like, just throwing myself into art and just reminding myself of like the beauty and joy in life. And I think that like in general, like I'm living in Dallas right now. And at first I'm like, okay, why am I in Texas? But it's actually challenged me because now I have to find joy in everyday life, and like,
Mhm.
and different from like when I was in Ypsilanti in that little town and I couldn't find joy. I've now learned how to do that for myself, no matter where I am in the world, which I think is so powerful,
Mhm.
while I also have, big travel plans, and so I still have fun stuff. Like I'm going to India next month for one of my classmates' wedding. And, so life is still big for me. I'm a
That is
corporate
so
girly, but
cool.
it's big for me.
Yes, and being corporate now, last year you still went to so many places, right? Like you were all over the US and then Norway and
Yeah.
Denmark and a bunch of other places. Like
Yep.
it has not slowed down at all for you.
No, I'm not nomadic anymore in the way that I was, but I still have wanderlust, So,
Yes, I love that. So what is one of the countries that you keep going back to?
yeah, I've been back to Finland, I think maybe 5 or 6 times now.
What day?
And my best friend lives there, my goddaughter. Her and I were both international students, and we came the first week, like ahead of the whole group. And so us international students got really close before everybody came. And so her and we like sat next to each other for like this like excursion we took to London. And I remember because like I honestly had a weave, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I'm sitting next to her and she was like, "Oh, I really love your hair." And I was like, "I just got out of bed." And she was like, "How?" And I was like, "Oh girl, this is a weave." And she's like, "What's that?" And then we just started like
Completely new to her.
talking. Yeah, were just talking. And then we had a really good day in London. And then we came back and we realized that we had a lot of classes together in global development. And so then it was on. And then we would walk to school together. And then we started traveling together. She was the one who really taught me how to backpack because I used to think it was so expensive, but she had been backpacking for like ever. So anyway, so my best friend lives in Finland and we still talk to this day, like all the time. And like I said, I'm the godmother of her daughter, but I have been back there many, many times. And the first time was actually when I was living in England. I needed somewhere to go for like the holiday period. And she was like,
Mhm.
come to Finland. And so I went for New Year to Finland and her and her friends, like 20 of us, rented a cabin in like northern Finland, and we just had dance parties in the living room, went to sauna, jumped in the snow naked. Like it was crazy, you know? But every
Like
time
how
I
it
go
should
back,
be.
yeah, but every time I go back now, I realize that what I really love about Finland is that like it's a place that is centered on the human experience. Like it's human-centered design. They care very much about, the built environment. The social kind of safety nets make it so that people feel like, like safe and
Mhm.
like they can pursue education and whatever they want to do. It is like the Scandinavian design. I love it. It's minimal but so fun, and they're so playful. And I love sauna. I love skiing, especially cross country. And yeah, it's just like it's one of those places that's just so underrated, I would say, because it's just like it's not like a party destination. It's not all those things. But I've gone in the winter. I've gone in the summer. I've taken my niece with me. Like we did like a graduation trip and we went to my friend's cabin in central Finland and we just like spent time with her and her family there. It's just like a very special place.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love that like your semester abroad is what really started all of that. Like your year abroad. I keep saying semester. I'm so
It's
sorry. Your
okay.
year abroad. That is so cool. And
Hmm.
you're still doing like seeing those people and like talking to them to this day. Like it really just goes to show how impactful it can be like at that time, for
Yep,
the rest of your
exactly. And
life.
then and it helps too that I was a flight attendant because like, I was flying to all these places that I had friends. And so it allowed me to keep my friendships like hot, because I'm like,
Hmm.
hey, I'll be in London. Want to get dinner? Want to get coffee? I'll be in, Paris or, France or somewhere, whatever. And so
Hmm.
it allowed me to keep up with my friends. And then like for me going to Helsinki, it's not that hard. Like I just
Hmm.
get on the flight like from Dallas, I can go straight to Helsinki. And so I will go Finnair, they have a route now. But I will go and like there's this big music festival every year in August called Flow. It is like I feel like it's the best kept secret for festivals because it's just like Finnish people are low key. They're not like crazy, but they have fun and like it's not crowded and like they always have like really amazing artists. Like I saw Florence and the Machine. I saw Freddie Gibbs for the first time, like just
Ooh.
random. Like it's so cool. Or like Finnish artists and like one time I went to like a Finnish rappers like set. It was so funny. And so like I don't know, I just have so much fun there. I, I know that my flight ninja, allowed me to keep that connection really, really strong. Because I mean, we would have been writing each other and sending postcards and stuff, but that like
Hmm.
being able to just hop on a plane and just go see them and it not cost me very much. It was just like it allowed our friendship to keep going all over all these years.
Absolutely. Do you still have those like flight perks even though you're in corporate now, or is it kind of
I
different?
do. I do.
Wow. That
So
that's like the topping of the cake.
yeah, it is. Yeah, so I still fly for free. And I can fly other airlines and stuff for like a very discounted rate. And so yeah, the world is open to me. The only issue now is that I'm a corporate girly, and so, I gotta take PTO,
I know
which is
that's like
sad. I know.
really sad, especially American PTO. Like, what even is that?
Exactly. It's a joke. But and it pisses me off even more because like, I talked to my friend in Finland where very easily every year she'll be like, "Oh, I'm taking off 6 weeks in the summer and then I'm gonna take off another this many weeks and this many weeks." And like, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Like, they really have it made.
Yeah. Like I requested 2 weeks off to go to India and I was like heart beating, like, okay, I've never requested 2 weeks off before.
No, for real. Like, sometimes, like, all I wanted was a week, and y'all couldn't even give me that. Like, for real?
Yep. So that's the trade-off that I have for, for moving to the corporate side. But I will say that like I do maximize and, when I do go on trips, I make it real worth it.
For sure. What is like, I know you're going to India next month for an Indian wedding. That is so cool, actually. What else are you doing in the upcoming year? Like, any super fun
Yeah,
trips
yeah.
besides that?
So I am obviously going to India. I have a vacation in Mexico City in February as well. And then I am gonna go in May. I'm taking my niece and nephew on a cruise. So I am an auntie of seven, and yeah, I know. And when they were little, I was like the auntie who traveled and who was always gone
Hmm.
and like, everywhere in the world. And so when they were mad little, they were like, "Auntie, like when are we gonna be able to travel with you?" And I was like, "Oh, when you graduate." But then, oh my God, they graduated. They just grew up so fast. It went really fast. Like I've been an aunt since I was 11 or 10 actually. So it was
Dang.
like, it just like it just went by. And so anyway, I took my niece to we went to where? London, Paris, Helsinki, Stockholm, plus Central Finland for that little cabin. And so now I have two more nieces and nephews that have gone to college. And so now it's their turn. And so they wanted to do a multi-country destination thing too. And so we're gonna do a cruise. And I've never done it. And I'm like, I used to be really like snobby about it, but I'm actually quite excited now. I'm like, what do you mean I get like food on demand and like unlimited drink package and I get to just drop off at the best beaches in the Caribbean? Like, duh,
Yes.
like not every travel has to be the same, you know what I mean? And so yeah, so me and my niece and nephew, we're gonna do like I think we're doing what Mexico, Belize, Honduras. I've never been to Honduras, so I'm excited to like at least get a taste of it before I go back. And then I am, again, me and my million projects. So I am trying to start an art residency in a couple of years. And so I've really been like pushing myself to go to more art fairs and things like that globally. And so there's this one art fair in London in the fall, and it's like an African art fair because I really want to do like some kind of connection, like this diaspora
Hmm.
studies that I've always done. Like I want to
Yes.
connect the diaspora's artists together and create like spaces for them to create together and share and learn from each
Hmm.
other. And so my focus is on Africa. And so yeah, so I'm gonna go to this like festival in London where it's like the biggest like contemporary African art fair. And then I'm thinking about maybe starting my residency in Kenya. And so I'm gonna spend like 2 weeks in Kenya at the end of the year. So even though it's not like, I can't be a nomad like I was when I was a flight attendant, I still make it work and I still give myself exciting things to do and to look forward to for sure.
For sure. And it sounds like you're making it so it's like your everyday life is not something that you want to like escape. It's like you're finding the love in every day. So it's like the
Hmm.
traveling is just adding on to it, which is so beautiful. I wish that for everybody, honestly.
Yeah, and I worked really hard to get here, like I had to have some tough conversations with myself about just like, how travel can be escapism. Now, while
Hmm.
escapism isn't always terrible, you know, like when you do anything too much, it's not good. And so I now have a
Hmm.
model everything in moderation, because what I find is that like when you use travel to escape, your problems one follow you
Hmm.
home you have to deal with it anyway, and so now it's worse because you've been you've avoided it or you haven't processed something, and then it comes up at 10 years later and you're like, this is the wrong time for this to come up. And so what I find is that like now I just make sure that like when I'm going, it's like the cherry on top. It's not something that needs to
Hmm.
like fix me, you know what I mean? Like if I need to
Yeah.
fix me, I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna
Hmm.
clear my calendar. I'm gonna take care of myself. I'm gonna go for walks, cook myself meals, get a
Hmm.
massage, like go see some music, live music, the things that feed me instead of being like, oh, I just need to get out of here. Like, oh, I'm going to the
Hmm.
breakup. I'm going on a trip. Oh, I'm like mad at everyone. I'm going on a trip. Like, no, that's not what I do. I go
Hmm.
out of abundance and out of, not like, so yeah,
Hmm.
it's been a long journey. I mean, I did have times like I told you, me and Rika, my friend from Finland, like 1 year before I became a flight attendant, we went to Brazil in 2013. And there was this guy that I had this situationship with for like way too long. And we were like best friends and then we were not. And like it was just like weird. And so I'm like in Brazil, like there's this island called Ilha Grande. And it's like off the state of Rio de Janeiro, and we're on the most beautiful beach and I'm sad about this boy, and I'm like, this is stupid.
Hmm.
I am an Ilha Grande. Like, I should not be thinking about this stupid boy. And so it just, I've had moments in time where I feel like, like I wasn't fully able to enjoy myself because I had so much
Hmm.
going on, and I will say that there are, unique cases where sometimes you need clarity, you know,
Hmm.
and I feel like it's not about fixing your problems, you need clarity. So those, I'm like, okay, we need a little clarity. Let's go. And, whatevs. But not like, oh, I'm like sad and like, my life is falling apart. Like, no, you need to fix your life before you go.
I definitely agree. Like when it's like you need to take away, I feel like when it's like I need a moment to step back to take a look at the bigger picture, that's when I'm like, okay, like a nice little weekend trip away, we'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's like, okay, if I just leave this problem here now, I just have to come right back to it. And then I'm just gonna stress about it the whole time. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's the point?
Yep. I think that a lot of travelers do not always like to explore the like mental health aspects of travel and
Hmm.
like, just kind of looking into like the behavior and like why they do things. Like, yes, you should have a good time. Go have a wild, fun, full moon party. Go everywhere in the world. Backpack and have $5. Like, I don't care, But like deal with your shit, and like show up
Yes,
in the world as your healed self and not your like broken one.
for sure. Man, well, what a story that you have. That was so beautiful. What advice? I mean, I guess that was kind of just like advice. Like, what other advice would you give someone that, like, maybe hasn't been abroad or is, like, scared or, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in general, people have this perception that travel is so expensive and that it's not
Hmm.
accessible. And while it's not accessible to everyone, that would be disingenuous to say. It is it is available to a lot of people, more than people would imagine. It's just really about thinking like, okay, like where do I want to go? And there's always a place that is safe enough. Most of the time what I've learned is that like there are some places that are more challenging that I wouldn't go alone, and that's true. But most of the time, like you're going somewhere in Western Europe, you're going to Southeast Asia, East Asia, you're going to Morocco or, some of the like
Hmm.
South Africa, places like that. Like you can always find somewhere that you can be safe. And then it's just like wherever you're from, you have to be like, vigilant, and you have to like make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You apply that to when you go. Like as a woman, when I'm solo traveling, I always make sure like I see everything during the day, and then at night I'm at home. Or if I go somewhere, I take a taxi. Or if I meet someone at a walking tour and they're like, let's get dinner tonight, let's get drinks, I'm like, yes, we can go out at night, let's go. And so I just feel like you just have to like find a modification. And so for some people, that might be maybe you can't take a trip on a plane somewhere, but is there somewhere
Hmm.
within like 6 hours of driving that you've never seen? Like the trip doesn't have to be crazy. You just need to see different things, new perspectives, stretch yourself a little bit. But then also now at the age of the digital everything, like there's
Hmm.
cheap flights, there's, fly in the off season, like, like stay in a hostel or stay on a cheap Airbnb, you know, home swap. I don't know. Like there's just so many things out there that like anybody who says, oh, I want to travel, but I can't, I'm just like, no. Like there's really like every resource available to you. You can do a curated group trip like the ones I used to do. You can go solo and just research everything on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and whatever. Like just find the safest neighborhood to stay, somewhere walkable, somewhere convenient, and just go have a good time. Learn history, meet people,
Hmm.
stay safe.
Yes. I love that, especially the like a weekend trip. Like I feel like there's this huge thing on social media where like everything has to be luxury. Like that's the like push I feel like, and it's you can take a weekend trip and go camp in your car or go camp out like in the like nature. Like you literally don't have to spend that much money and you can just go see a new city. Like it doesn't have to be New York City, but it could be like maybe you're like an hour away, you know?
No, true. I mean, I went to grad school in upstate New York. It's beautiful. It is absolutely stunning. I did my 30th birthday in the Catskills, and I was not enthusiastic about this, by the way, because I turned 30 in the pandemic. So I was like, I had big plans, okay? Like I
Yeah.
was gonna do like what do you call it? So obviously my name is Brittany, and it's like it's spelled like from the region in France, northern like northwestern France. And so I had this like idea, like when I turned 30, that I would do like Brittany and Brittany. And I had a friend who was a videographer, and he was gonna follow me, and I was gonna do kind of like not like Anthony Bourdain style, but kind of like
Yeah.
No reservations. Like I wasn't gonna plan anything. I was gonna show up and ask locals, like, what should I do? And then I was gonna go do it, and then I was gonna have him shoot it. But then obviously Penny, so it didn't happen. And so instead of being Brittany and Brittany, I was in Catskill. But I will say that it was so cool. It was so beautiful. And my birthday's in the fall, so it was like fall foliage was on a million. I had the best group of like 20 friends that came. We had dance parties in the living room, kind of like when I was in Finland. And,
Yes.
my friends, like everyone took turns cooking and we went horseback riding and like all these things. And it ended up being like one of my favorite birthdays. And the like northern, like New York is so beautiful, like so, so beautiful. So, you learn that there are things even in your backyard that are worth seeing and that can move you and that are like, give you that little feeling that you need.
For sure. Man, well, if you're ever back in LA, shoot me a message. I have a cool little poetry spot that I think you would
Oh,
love.
actually, I once went to a poetry spot in LA. I don't remember the name of it. It's been so long.
Perfect. Well, do you have anything else that you would love to share with anyone? Any
No, I mean,
closing
I'm just
remarks?
glad to, yeah, no, I'm just glad to have had this conversation. I realized that, I've been someone who has been really intentional about not glamorizing this lifestyle or
Hmm.
like coming off as like an expert of this location by only being there for 2 weeks, like, oh no, the best spots in here. I'm like, no, that's not, I don't even know, I just got here. So I really struggled a lot in the creator space because people would always tell me
Hmm.
like, oh, you should be a travel influencer, you should be a travel influencer, and I'm just like, no, like that's just like not genuine for me. But
Hmm.
I realized in the last like year or so that I have a lot of stories and a lot of things to tell and things that I think people could learn from and be inspired by. And so when I saw your post on Threads, I was like, you know what? I need to tell my story more and like I need to control my narrative a little, but I really
Hmm.
should be telling my story more. And all these years I kind of shied away from anything big other than just like my Instagram posting cute pics.
Mm.
But like now I want to really start creating interesting things. And so this was kind of a reminder and a kind of a kickoff for just like what's to come for me in terms of just like what I
Yes.
share with the world. So I just appreciate you taking the time to even have me on here.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Definitely, the day you write that memoir, I'm gonna buy it. I'll be like, yep, click. Yes, especially with your story, and I think it's so important, especially, for little girls all everywhere, especially like little black girls all everywhere, to see someone who looks like them, who's from a small town, like to see like what you really can do, and like you don't have to live in that mindset of like, oh, this is, no one leaves, I'm stuck here, and it's like, no, literally, you can do it all.
Yep, I think that the last thing I'll leave, the listeners with or whatever is just that you can design your life. So many
Mm-hmm.
people, like you said, they feel like they are kind of stuck somewhere, like this is the cards I've been dealt. Yeah, now play a different hand. Like, you know what I mean? Like honestly, like you have to really know yourself to be able to build the life that works for you. So you really have to get honest with yourself about what it is that you want and what you need and what makes you come alive. But once you figure that out, design your life anyway and don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about how others care because like they don't pay your bills, they don't have to be you every like just do your own thing and then people will respect it. Like when I first started off on this path, people thought I was like so unconventional and so wacky, and now they see the vision because I stayed strong and I just they're like, oh, that's just Brittany, like it's just who I
Mm-hmm.
am. And like people will accept you for who you are if you show up as who you really are and you really
Mm-hmm.
are grounded in what it is that you need in your life and how you want it to be. So design your life.
Love that. Those are great words. Thank you again so much, Brittany. It's been so lovely having you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And good luck. I'm so glad that you
Thank
have this
you.
platform. I know you launched it this year, but I've listened to a lot of the episodes and I'm really moved by the kind of stuff that you're putting out there and all the
Thank
interesting
you.
stories and people that you bring on. So yeah, I hope for
Thank you.
more
That means so
success.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, more
Thank you.
success for you.